Previously on Yugioh OCG, we took a look at Volume 5. With cards such as Change of Heart, Tribute to the Doomed, and Mass Sorcerer, duelists viewed the game in a much more aggressive way than ever before. While some alternate strategies did technically exist, none was on the tier of standard. Good stuff. On another level, much like yourself after subscribing to the Janjo Zone, wink wink. With such a lopsided landscape, here comes Booster 5 on October 17th. The set advertised even more strength, which meant Konami clearly knew what they were doing for this 5th vending machine installment. That statement may be ironic, considering the strongest beaters in the set were a trio of 1600 dinosaurs, Dragon Zombie, Crawling Dragon number 2, and two-headed King Rex. Wait, Dragon Zombie? Well, some in the past once thought dinosaur bones were that of dragons, which helped perpetuate dragon stories of old, the more you know. This only meant that if you're playing schoolyard decks, then perhaps a dinosaur deck with the new beaters, Wasteland, and the new fusion Brachio Radius may have been on your radius. Also, one card to quickly note is Pot the Trick, which may have been the first OCG exclusive counterpart I saw, cementing the strangeness of the original game in my head. I was aware of the method in the TCG by Metal Raiders with Gyakuten Megami and Empress Judge, but which OCG recolor did you first see? Booster 5 was when duelists would see more effect monsters on average. With Volume 5 introducing high-level effect monsters, Booster 5 likewise would feature the first mid-level, non-flip effect monsters in Machine King and Dragon Seeker. Otherwise, Reaper of the Cards would be considered first. King would be the main card advertised here as, unlike Summon Skull, which was an ultra-rare in Volume 4, King was a common. So if you missed out on Skull, you now had a relatively strong monster that was easier to obtain. Settling for a 2300 attack post base effect, one tribute monster was great for the budgeted duelist, or if you were a fan of machines in general. And I suppose its effect could come into play since Mechanical Chaser was popular. On the flip side, there was Dragon Seeker, which did not have a particularly strong attack stat of 2k. This card had a niche effect of destroying a single dragon monster upon Seeker's normal or flip summon. All this meant was you could side Seeker in if your Yugioh area ran a Blue Eyes build, or if someone was playing the Blue Eyes discard deck, which would be considered a rogue strategy in this meta. This Dragon Killer would have fitted better in Volume 2's era, let alone now. Both cards would get obscure first prints in the TCG, with Seeker being in Tournament Pack 2 in 2002, and King being a Duelist League promo in 2004. There are still some cards we have yet to get imported, such as the aforementioned Pot the Trick, Turtle Raccoon with its big belly button, Behegan? How do you pronounce that? And Machine Attacker. Crocodilius when? Which import would you like to see? And if you're enjoying this Yugioh OCG entry and want to support the future of any and all Janjo Zone related videos, then become a Janjo patron for as little as $2 a month today. Then you'll become the Machine King, or Queen for whom it may apply. All that said, the main course of Booster 5 has to be Needleworm. When this insect is flipped face up, your opponent must send the top 5 cards of their deck to the graveyard. Let me introduce you to the concept of deck destruction. The idea is to use cards to make your opponent's deck run out as quickly as possible. This is due to the ruling that if your opponent has no cards left to draw, the game ends. I use that terminology very specifically because at this point in the game, in Series 1, if a duelist deck runs out, then the duelist with the higher life points wins. As a result, deck destruction was considered in a beta stage, even if the idea of winning via a rule that didn't affect board state must have been rather intriguing. Regardless, Needleworm was much better than Needle Ball, which I'm not even going to talk about because it's just really bad. The deck even got a complimentary card in Morphing Jar. Yeah, here he is. Jar is indirect DD support as it, when flipped, makes both players discard their hands and draw 5 new cards. It can be a great tool to replenish your hand and get rid of an opposing strong hand, whilst having the drawback of giving your opponent a possible beneficial refresh, or you draw into a bunch of stinkers as well. So it has a tactical element to its strong power. This also made duelists more likely to set cards than ever before to prepare or to at least bluff Jar. In turn, Harpy's Feather Duster would gain strength to punish these plays. More draw power, yay! At least those rare Exodia decks can now get checked. Almost as if to offset this, we'd also receive Just Desserts, the first burn trap in the game. Even though burn decks don't exist by this point, the trap can make use as a way to work around the lack of beaters DD played and the life point rule when it comes to decking out. This may have been a reason why Mysterious Puppeteer was released in B5 too, as Konami's way to counter a base 500 point burn card. Additionally, as another way to deter desserts and the setting style that Jar would push, Royal Decree would also be released here. If you're unaware, this is a continuous trap that has the new effect of completely shutting off fellow trap cards. In certain formats, Decree would be undeniably strong. However, by this point, traps were scarce in decks. As such, Decree on release was considered a generally weak card. If anything, having a card to blanket negate traps only furthered the pink card's low adoption rate. Funny how that happens. The same applies to the new effect monster, Trap Master, though Trap would go on to be a solid tool in the TCG's first format. This is to say, Standard did not budge whatsoever. While you could play Masked Virus, historically speaking the deck was rare to come across considering Crush Card Virus was a video game promo, and Mask of Darkness did not receive a reprint since Volume 4, unlike some other V4 cards. Deck Destruction simply did not have the speed nor power to outplay Standard's aggressive strategy. It could play the slow and steady game if not for the current rulings being in Beatdown's favor. Thus, any small scratch to DD gave the deck all the more difficulty to win. Which is a shame that Konami tried a different type of deck, only for it to be squandered due to the rules they themselves set. The meta stayed exactly where it was during Volume 5's metagame, if not more in the direction of Standard than before. But at least the game did get a chunk of new cards, usable to different degrees. Machine King, Morphing Jar, Needleworm, Royal Decree, and Just Desserts. Yeah, no magic cards in this set, oddly enough. But what do you all think? Is Booster 5 worthy of its poor outlook, or does the sum of its parts justify the set's existence? The OCG isn't going to stay stagnant for too long, because next time, the game gets countered.